to read from script, if that's okay, because there's a lot of important information that I need to convey as a former home educator. Given the limited time to discuss what the conference directory recognizes is a complex and multidimensional subject, I have written a paper on the matter which I'm happy to provide by email if you leave your details on the sheet of paper provided just here on the desk. You may also receive a statement released by Education Otherwise, who were invited to join the panel but were unable to attend. The Solly Bill and the Liberal Democrat policy share a common desire to see increased powers on the part of the state to oversee the education of those educated at home. The Solly Bill includes a provision for mandatory registration of all children receiving elective home education. Policy Paper 128 does not. I believe a registration scheme would achieve nothing and would not materially benefit the lot of the home-educated child. Paper Policy 128, like the Solly Bill, with which it shares several common features, is ill thought through and a blunt and indiscriminate policy. The proposals in it are liable to waste valuable local authority resources and are unlikely to benefit in any real sense those children educated at home. Both the Solly Bill and Policy Paper 128 propose the local authorities should be under a duty to assess all children receiving their education outside a school, in the case of Policy Paper 128, to ensure an appropriate education is given, and in the case of the Solly Bill, to assess the educational development of children in their area. Policy Paper 128 would require home educators to educate in line with the national curriculum, though this is neither a requirement under current legislation nor part of the Solly Bill. The national curriculum is far from perfect. My objection to both is that they seek to subject all home educators to the same potentially intrusive powers and place local authorities under assessment obligations annually or biannually in the case of Policy Paper 128, without any discrimination as to the circumstances in which individual home education is taking place. Both the Solly Bill and Policy Paper 128 appear to have an almost insouciant disregard for the parents' primary responsibility for the education of their child, and the long enshrined legal right at Section 7 of the Education Act 1996 to elect to educate their child otherwise than at school. Policy Paper 128 relies on evidence of serious harm to children who are invisible to the system because they were homeschooled, by which I believe the policy paper means home educated. There is no evidence of what this serious harm is. In fact, most of the harm suffered by children, whether educational or otherwise, such as bullying or sexual abuse, occurs within the school system. It seems Policy Paper 128, as with the Solly Bill, conflates issues concerning the welfare of children with issues relating to education at home. There is an existing legal structure in place to deal with child welfare issues, including provision in the Children Act 1989 and the Education Act 1996. If it is considered that existing legislation in the field of child welfare is inadequate, then this should be dealt with by Amendment 2 or augmentation of current legislation in that field, rather than by a piece of legislation aimed at one sector of the educational community. Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights confers important and fundamental rights to respect for a family, private and family life, which encompasses the right of parent to decide on the form of education they wish their child to receive. One cannot cede to the state powers which detract from those fundamental rights unless there is identifiable necessity to do so and the powers in question are proportionate. It strikes me that both party policy and the Solly Bill are flawed with impracticality. Why should local authorities be required to biannually, or potentially annually under the Solly Bill, visit children receiving education at home, even if the local authority is satisfied that the child is being given an efficient, full-time education as contemplated by Section 7 of the Education Act 1996. Where would the resources come from to ensure that local authorities could effectively discharge this obligation? What qualifications would the representatives have to ensure they are competent to assess the education being given to a child at home? What redress would be available to a home educating parent where a local authority acts ultra vires or uses its power in an oppressive manner? Policy Paper 128 recognises that the vast majority of parents who educate their children at home do so extremely well. This statement is, in my submission, logically inconsistent with a policy of enforced biannual visits to home-educated families by representatives of the state without regard to the individual circumstances of the home-educated child. Lord Soley himself made clear that his concern is not with home-educating parents who do it well, to use his phrase, rather with those who cannot do it well. A blanket policy which provides a platform for state monitoring of the home-educated without regard to individual circumstances is wrong. As far as the Liberal Democrat Party is concerned, I believe it should go back to the drawing board insofar as its policy on home education is concerned. As Liberals, we should protect, as far as possible, the right of a parent as part of his parental responsibility to endow his or her child with an education free from state intervention and based on the best interests of the child. If the party is concerned with serious harm being done to any child, whether that child is educated in a school or educated at home, then it is a matter of child welfare legislation which effectively targets known problem areas. The party appears to have issued a policy with little or no consultation and has missed the opportunity for an informed and enlightened contribution to the debate. I hope this fringe event will work towards correcting this. Thank you.